Yo, what up? What's so good, everybody? It's your girl Tia. It's been a minute. It's been a good minute, but I'm happy to say that I am back, and God willing, we're gonna keep this thing consistent. Um, we got a little bit of a different format, right? In the sense that it'll just be me for the most part. We'll get some special guests on here, but I will be the one and only host, and I'll be the co-host as well. So it's just me, but we're still talking about the same stuff: sports, music, culture, and we'll talk about sports the most. But I like to throw music and culture in there too, because sometimes it's just things that happen outside of sports that I really just want to talk about. And this is the space to do it. So that's what we're gonna roll with. A little bit of a name change. We're gonna call this thing Tia's Talking. Not too hard for me to do. I talk a lot, as you can see. So talking to myself for about 20, 30 minutes, it ain't gonna hurt me, and I can do it all day. So with that being said, if you're watching, as always, like, comment, subscribe, please, 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 because that helps me to keep going and pushing out the best content, right? But let's go ahead and get right into it. As you can see, yeah, yeah, yeah. Fly, Eagles, fly. So, Eagles, we got the dub. I'm happy about that, but it's definitely a lot of things that were kind of going on during the game and just through the first 4 weeks, right? That I'm just like, I feel like we're winning, we're 4-0, we're undefeated, but it's still just kind of like not clicking for us. Like it doesn't feel the same as it did last year when we only lost one game during the regular season. And, today's game just kind of shows that. On the offensive side, we did get a new offensive coordinator. And I think that's the first point that I really just kind of want to talk about. We got a new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. And it's a new offensive coordinator. He's with a new team. We had to get used to this new offensive coordinator. But it's just some things that I'm not impressed. I'll say that. I'm not impressed just yet. It's kind of underwhelming. Some of the play calling is a bit questionable. But we're still early on in the season, and I'm hoping to see kind of Jalen Hurts calm down a little bit. Through the first 3.5 games, I would say Jalen Hurts has not looked like himself to me. He shows spurts of it, right? Here and there, right? Where it's like, okay, we got him back. But it wasn't until kind of, I want to say like the second half of today's game where he looked a little bit more comfortable, but it's still not in full force as we've been used to, right, in the past season. So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to, is to see Jalen Hurts kind of get more comfortable, and maybe it just takes a few games with him working with this new offensive coordinator, a few more games, right, where they get comfortable with each other and start to trust each other a bit more. I think that has something to do with it. On the defensive side, I do love our defense. Today, I thought if I had to give us a score out of 10, I'd probably say a 6.5. I felt in the secondary we're a little bit too soft, and we were letting a lot of, Washington was kind of dicing us up with some of those pass plays. And I felt like it was because we were playing so soft. Defensive line, we weren't putting 5 men up on that line like we usually do and kind of rushing the passer. But when we did, we had success, right? But we weren't doing it as much as I thought that we should have. But I think overall, right, Jalen Hurts, he threw for over 300 yards. No interceptions today, which is nice. He had 2 touchdowns. So our highest receiving player was A.J. Brown. He had 175 yards on 9 receptions, 2 touchdowns. One play that I want to talk about that I'm just like, I don't understand why sometimes, especially through the first 4 games, is we did a QB draw, and then the next play was 3rd and 11, I want to say. And we decided to run the ball. And I'm like, we didn't convert. But that play, like things like that, just does not make sense to me to run the ball on 3rd and 11. Yeah, we got Swift, and he's been playing amazing. But that didn't quite make sense to me. We didn't convert, and that could have potentially cost us the game. So really just kind of going back to some of those things where it's just like, we got to tighten things up, period. Ton of penalties for 80 yards. We got to tighten it up. We're starting off a little slow. We're 4-0, thankfully. But if we continue to kind of play at this level, I don't think we'll be 4-0 for long. But God willing, we figure this thing out. Still talking about football, big game that I've been watching. I always talk about things that I watch so that I could actually talk about the game and not just kind of look at box scores and things like that. But Colorado, USC at the college football level. It was a fun game. It started off, though, I was kind of nervous. So I'm jumping on the Colorado bandwagon because I really like what Deion Sanders has going on over in Boulder. I like how he's kind of gotten his players to buy in. I like the way he coaches his players and the way that he loves on them. So I've been tuned into every single Colorado game this year. So they had USC this past weekend, top 25 opponent. And in that first quarter, I was a bit nervous because they got their butts kicked last week versus Oregon. And so this first quarter started out kind of similar. USC went up 14-0. And I'm just like, ooh, I really, don't want this to be deja vu of last game. But one thing I will say about this game is that Colorado, they showed a lot of fight. They could have easily laid down when USC went up 14-0 in the first quarter, but they didn't. They kept fighting. First half, they didn't really turn it around. The defense is really giving up a lot of points. And I think in the past 2 games, at least, they've given up almost 100 points, which is just kind of like, it's hard to win games when you're giving up that many points. And I'm singing to the choir there. I'm sure everyone agrees. But Colorado's defense gives up a lot of points. And then if the offense can't keep up sometimes, morale is low. And it's hard to kind of convert. Like when you come up on some of those third down plays where you have to convert, if your defense is playing poorly, it's kind of hard to kind of get over that hump. You know what I'm saying? And so I think Colorado struggles a bit there, really with the defense kind of making plays for them and things like that. And so that's what we kind of saw during the first half. Shedeur did make some plays in the first half as well, so that Colorado, they at least didn't get shut out for dang near the whole game like they did versus Oregon. And so that kind of helped them. They were down by 20 points going into the half. Then halftime comes. It was a little bit of the same, but you can kind of see the tide start to turn a little bit in the sense that because of the nature of the game, Deion started playing some of his freshmen. So you got the defensive back, Cormani McClain, who they were asking why he wasn't playing within the past 2 weeks. And Deion kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, I need you to show up to practice. I need you to actually watch film. I need you to prepare. I can't put you in the game if I feel like that you aren't prepared. So that was one player. And then Omarion, let me see. I want to make sure I get his name right because before Saturday, nobody knew who this kid was. Omarion Miller, another freshman that Deion puts in there. And he goes in and just has a monster game. 7 receptions, 196 yards, 1 touchdown. And he was just out there making it look easy. Like, I'm like, who is this kid and where did he come from and why was he not playing in the games prior? But it was very much your name gets called and you show up. He was ready. And, good for Colorado because in that second half, they really kind of turned things around. They did give up some scores in the third quarter. But I think the thing that's most promising for Colorado was what they did in that fourth quarter. It wasn't great, but I talked about their defense, right? How they were giving up a lot of points. They shut USC out that entire fourth quarter. Some of that has to do with just them kind of possessing the ball for a little bit longer. But they did a much better job of actually getting stops on USC in that fourth quarter. And it just goes to show that if the defense can step up to the plate and get some stops, just how strong Colorado can be against top competition. So big names there. Cormani McClain, he had a good stop, not a game saving, but touchdown saving stop where he just kind of stuck his hand in there, batted the ball down, and then Omarion Miller, he had the game of his life, and it was super fun to watch. So I'm glad it wasn't a blowout like it was with Oregon. I was tuned in from beginning to end. And, we see what Colorado will do next game. And I'll definitely be tuned in as long as in good old Texas, they still showing us the game. I'll be tuned in and see how they kind of bounce back and see if they can kind of capitalize off of the way that they ended this USC game. In other Colorado news, something that I thought was super cool, and I just wanted to kind of highlight Travis Hunter. So, as you know, in the game versus Colorado State, rival game, Travis Hunter did get hurt, and they said he's going to be out for 3 weeks. So, missed the Oregon game, missed this USC game. And there was a player on Colorado State, Henry Blackburn was his name, was the player that gave the blow that injured Travis Hunter. And I'll be blunt, it was a dirty hit. You know what I mean? He was nearly out of bounds, wasn't prepared for it, didn't even make a play on the ball because Travis didn't have the ball. But he gave him a blow, and Travis was able to play a little bit more during that game, but you could tell something was just kind of off. And then the news came out that he had to go to the hospital. He's out for the next 3 weeks. What followed was that everyone was pissed, and rightfully so. But something which I don't really understand. Like, I get being pissed, but some people like to take things too far. And so what ended up ensuing is that people were reaching out to Henry Blackburn on social media. They were sending him death threats. They were sending death threats to his family and things of that sort. And so people were pissed off. I get they were being pissed off. Sending death threats, that's a little bit extreme. But that's good old America for you. And that's just kind of what happened, right? Travis Hunter, though, I do want to give a shout out to him because I think he kind of saw all the things that were going on. And you could very much say, right, Deion Sanders forced him to do this. But Henry Blackburn, he was getting death threats. Travis Hunter did come out. He does have his own podcast where he came out and said, hey, man, like, he hit me. That's football. It's not a big deal. He shouldn't be getting death threats. You know, that's just the game of football. You know what I'm saying? Like, things like that are going to happen. And then he took it one step further, and I'll play the video. But
YouTube, it's your boy Travis Hunter here. We back with another banger. We got a special guest. Come on in, man.
What's up with you?
What up?
How we doing? How we doing?
Good. Go ahead and let the people know who you is.
You know,
talking.
Henry Blackburn. You know, played CSU. We just played last weekend or last Saturday. You know, just making sure my guy's straight.
Yeah.
You know, just making sure he's good. Checking in with him. I know we talked after the game on the phone and then through the DMs and stuff. And
made this happen for the people that love to see negativity. This ain't a negative video, man. It's straight positive. And you know how we get. It's nothing but positivity this way.
But he actually invited Henry Blackburn out to, I think, Colorado's campus. And they did, on his podcast, just a little short thing where him and Henry Blackburn, they kind of talked about the situation. They mentioned how they had talked after the game when they played Colorado State. And Henry Blackburn was just kind of detailing some of the things that were going on since it happened. And Travis kind of gave him the platform to, I don't want to say tell his side of the story, but to kind of give him some humanity, right? Because the last time people heard his name, it was, oh, he gave a dirty hit on Travis Hunter, which is arguably one of the best players in college football right now. But Travis kind of bringing Henry onto that show, at least to me, it showed that there was a person behind that name. And it helped you feel a little bit of empathy. And I just thought it was really cool that they were able to do some of the things that just in today's climate, us as people aren't able to do. And they talked about it. They got over it. They shook hands. They went and played bowling. And it was what it was. So it's just something that I wanted to highlight. Every time I see things that are just kind of like positive, I think that's super important to talk about because we talk about the negative things so much. When you see certain things that are just positive, especially young kids like that, just super dope. And I'm always going to be talking about stuff like that because it needs to be talked about. So good things happening over on the Colorado side. Yeah, they did drop the last 2 games, but we're hoping, you know, they can kind of capitalize on some of the momentum they got. And then hopefully Travis Hunter comes back, gets healthy, you know what I'm saying, and we kind of see them at full force. So that's it for college football. What we got next? Oh, we got some good topics. So WNBA, they're right now. They're in their playoffs, right? And so I actually got to go and watch one of the games in person. We'll talk about Las Vegas Aces versus the Dallas Wings. So Las Vegas Aces, they were up 2-0. And if you're in tune with the WNBA, it's a best out of 5 series there. So first 2 games were at the Aces home court. They traveled to Dallas for game 3. And really everything was on the line for Dallas Wings. They had everything to lose, right? Because if the Aces win, they're done. Their season is over. And so it was an intense game from the moment that they tipped off the game to the end of it. Dallas really came out playing strong. And I think one of the key things for Dallas that they had in game 3 that they didn't have in game 1 and 2 is that they didn't really believe. And I felt, and maybe it was because I was actually in the vicinity this time, but I actually felt that this time they believed that they could win. They believed that they were better than the Las Vegas Aces, and they believed that they could compete with them, and they were just any other team and not the defending WNBA champions. So I think that was the big thing that kind of helped Dallas. Arike Ogunbowale, I said that right. She had a decent game. I've seen her play much better, right? But I think the Las Vegas Aces made it a point this series to kind of keep her in check. And then with a player like her who can score as well as she does, keeping her in check is only doing so much, right? But I think they made it a point to kind of keep her in check in the sense that she's not scoring 25, 30, 40 points a game, right? So they did their job on that, and every shot that she took, she makes tough shots. And Las Vegas made it a point that, hey, if she makes those tough shots, great, but we're going to force her into those tough shots. We're not just going to let her get anything wide open, anything to the basket, and let her kind of do what she wants, right? We're going to play her. We're going to play her hard, and if she scores, because that's what she does. She ended up with 18 points. Satu Sabali, she struggled offensively. I do think that she's a hard worker, and I really like watching her play because she plays so hard. And so on the offensive end, she wasn't having a great game, right? But she was playing very hard, hoping to get second chance points, and then defensively kind of stepping up to the plate, doing what she needed to do. But overall, sometimes like when you're used to scoring, right? When you're used to scoring, when that part of your game is off, it can spill over into other parts of the game. And I think as I was watching her, it was kind of doing that a little bit. You know, she had some wide open threes that she just couldn't knock down this game. Like this game, it wasn't her day. And sometimes it goes like that. Like that's just the way the ball bounces. I do think that Dallas they're not role players, but some of the players that you're not used to hearing their name called, maybe not Tiara McCowan. She played amazing. That's Dallas's 6'7" big. That girl is so strong, and I think watching that game, that was probably one of the better games that I've seen her play. She was playing hard. She was leaving it all out on the floor. It was a very chippy game, and so with her being as tall as she is, right, I do think that she probably gets fouled more than other players in the league, and that's just kind of like the nature of it. Some of those things kind of don't get called, but she was playing through it. She was getting some block shots. She was scoring. She was doing a little bit of everything. And you can't really ask for much more from her when it comes to just a 40-minute game, right? So I was very, not surprised, but I was very impressed with the way that she played. And then we have Victoria, role player for the Wings, who played very well. She hit some open shots. And then I think on the defensive side, and I think this is her thing on the defensive side, she really played really well, getting her hands in the pockets of some of the Las Vegas Aces guards, and just generally playing hard and kind of helping to keep the Wings in the game. And the Wings, actually, they were leading much of the game, right? And I want to say at around the 6-minute mark, they were up by like 8 points. And if you tuned in, you saw that the Wings actually ended up losing that game and went down all the way to the final seconds of the game. You know, the big problem there, you're up by 8, right? You have home court advantage. The thing that I see when I watch Dallas, is that they kind of do a lot of one-on-one basketball instead of kind of going through their sets and being a little bit more strategic in the way that they get their players open and the way that they score. In the sense, right, where they're trying to get it to the big, but they're just literally staring her down. And it's like everyone knows where you're going with this. So all they have to do is drop 2-3 players. You've already picked up your dribble, so you're not a threat anymore. And they struggle kind of getting into the post and things like that. You have some players that just literally are trying to use their ball handling skills one-on-one. And it's like when you're playing against a team like the Las Vegas Aces, that's not going to work, period. So you have to use all 5 players on the court. And I think that is ultimately why Dallas ended up losing that game, is because they weren't, I don't want to say not playing as a team, but they just had too many instances where it was too much one-on-one play instead of kind of getting the ball moving. On the Aces side, it wasn't a typical game for them either, right? A'ja Wilson, she did end up having a double-double, but if you were watching that game, A'ja Wilson was struggling the entire game. She couldn't just, when she gets to the top of that top of the key, not even top of the key, but at the free throw line, right, that 15-footer, and she drives to the basket. She wasn't able to get that as much as she wanted to and as much as I've seen her in other games. So Dallas did a really good job of kind of keeping her quiet. So it was really kind of up to Chelsea Gray to kind of step up to the plate. And, man, that girl, she hits shots. She's a big-time player. And, I see it on TV all the time, but seeing it in person, it's just kind of like, it's nothing you can do about it. Like, especially in person, she looks much bigger than she does on TV, at least to me. And then you have her doing all these moves and then a fadeaway jumper at that. Like, how do you guard that when she's already taller than you? It's not much other that you can do other than try to stay in front of her and be a little more physical. But she had a good game and she hit big-time shots as to be expected. And it was really just Las Vegas, the Aces, they were gutty, like they were grimy, and they knew that they were going to need the whole game. They knew Dallas was going to bring everything they had at them, and they just gutted it out, and they ended up getting the dub. So great game. And then on the other side, right, we have the New York Liberty and the Connecticut Sun. So today's game, it was I think the Liberty were up 2-1. So Liberty wins, they go into the finals. Connecticut wins, they live for another day. And I didn't get to watch this entire game because I was watching the Eagles game. But I watched the fourth quarter of this game, and it was a lot of back and forth. I think I tuned in, and shortly after, Alyssa Thomas went down with an injury where she actually had to go back to the locker room. So, was praying there to make sure that, she was okay, because she's arguably Connecticut's best player, right? She may not score the most points every single time, but she's definitely the heart and soul of that team. And I don't think that they're even close without an Alyssa Thomas on their team. But she did end up coming back in the fourth quarter shortly after, and it was just a lot of back and forth. Both teams were playing super hard. Breanna Stewart hit some clutch free throws. But the player of the game for me, player of the quarter, I should say, was Jonquel Jones. She was just pretty much everywhere, doing a little bit of everything. She was hitting the three. She was rebounding, putback. She was making her free throws. She even got a steal, full court steal, where she stole it and dribbled the length of the court and got the foul on Alyssa Thomas. And it's just like when you have a big that's able to kind of stretch the floor like that and is playing at the level that she's playing at, it's hard to beat a team like that. And then let's not even talk about the surrounding pieces, right? That's around. The team isn't even built around her. That's the thing, right? It's very much Sabrina's team, and it's very much Breanna's team, Breanna Stewart's team. But you also have Jonquel Jones, who can at any moment just go off. And in the fourth quarter, that's what she showed. She showed she was here. She showed she wanted to win, and Liberty came out on top. It was a lot of back and forth. Bonner hit some clutch hit a clutch three. Dejanay Carrington hit a clutch three. Tyasha Harris hit a clutch three. And, there were times where the Liberty could have pulled away, and they did a little bit, but then Connecticut would come right back to stay in the game. So it was that pretty much through the whole fourth quarter, but the Liberty did pull it out, and it really kind of came down to one of the main reasons they made their free throws. They did miss too late, which kept Connecticut kind of in the game in the first place. But they made their free throws to kind of keep that little bit of separation. So it was an exciting fourth quarter. I was glad I was able to tune in. And then this next matchup is going to be dope. So I'll give kind of like my predictions or like what I think is going to happen in this next series. So we got the Las Vegas Aces and we got the New York Liberty. And I think that I'm going to go with the Aces. I think the Aces are going to pull this series out. So I believe these two teams have played each other 4 times and they've split the series. And what I noticed as I was kind of looking at the box scores is that I think there was one game where the point differential was less than 10 points. But other than that, it was either the Liberty killed the Aces or the Aces killed the Liberty. So it will be very interesting. But my pick is going to be the Aces, but it's going to be very tough. I can definitely see this series going to 5 games. I think the Liberty down low, if John Quell keeps playing the way that she's playing, if she plays the way that she played this last game, I can see the Aces kind of struggling. And the reason why I say that is because down low, the offensive threat for the Aces is Asia Wilson. You have Kia Stokes, but Kia Stokes is not really on an offensive threat. Defensively, right, she does what she needs to do. So I think on offense, I can see it's going to be a battle, right? You got Breanna Stewart, who was the league's MVP, versus Asia Wilson, who felt like she got snubbed for MVP. They're going to be going at it. I'm pretty sure they're going to be guarding each other the entire series. So that's just going to be a great matchup. I think that, who wins that matchup? That's so hard for me to say because you have Asia Wilson who does what she does. She gets to the basket. She's just a hard worker. She's going to get second chance points. She can shoot that 15-footer. She drives hard to the basket. And then you got Breanna Stewart, who may not be as aggressive or as physical, but she's able to spread that floor a little bit more. She can bring the ball up the court. She can shoot the three. And she can finish down low as well. So I think that matchup comes down to, and it may be based on how the game is called. That could have something to do with it, right? If the refs are kind of letting them play a little bit, I give the edge to Asia Wilson. But if they're calling a tight game, I can see Breanna Stewart having a little bit more success there, just because she's able to kind of spread the floor a little bit more. So that will be a great matchup that I'm excited to see. There's going to be a dogfight down there. So I really think that it's going to come down to the guard play, right? We're expecting Asia Wilson to play well. We're expecting Breanna Stewart to play well. Jonquel Jones. What are the guards going to do? And that matchup is going to be great too. You got Chelsea Gray, you got Kelsey Plum on one side, right? And then you have Courtney Vandersloot, Sabrina Ionescu. That's going to be a dogfight as well, But I don't think that the New York Liberty has the person I think is going to guard Chelsea Gray is Benijah Laney. Can she guard Chelsea Gray for a full 40 minutes and keep her quiet? No, I don't think so. I think that Chelsea Gray is just a little bit too versatile. And one thing that I notice about her is that she just she steps up to the plate. Like when the pressure comes on is when she turns it up a bit. And she's had more years in the league. And I think sometimes that veteran mentality comes to a lot more in some of these big time games. So my pick is the Aces will win this thing. I can see it going to 5 games. It's going to be tough. And so we'll see if they'll be able to defend their championship. But it's going to be a good series, and I'm urging everybody to tune in. It's great for women's basketball. And I have no doubt in my mind that if you tune into this game, you'll be like, oh, this is what I've kind of been missing out on because they really do play at a high level. So that's what's going on in WNBA. Make sure y'all tune in. It's going to be a great series. And then my last topic of today, NBA, Damian Lillard is going to the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm excited about that trade. I'm super excited about that trade. If you guys been following anything, right, Damian Lillard did request a trade from the Portland Trailblazers. And that comes after he said that he wanted to spend his whole career in Portland. Now, I don't know what be going on. Obviously, things change and things like that. But he requested a trade, and his desired destination was the Miami Heat. Portland basically said, no, we're not doing that. I don't think that they could get what they wanted with sending Damian to the Heat. So they're like, no, we're not doing that. We can't make that happen for you, Dame. So this has been going on for months, right? Like, where does Dame end up? And then it was very much looking like, at least I thought, that Dame was just going to end up staying in Portland. And then Woj comes through with a Woj bomb. And it's like, Damian Lillard to the Bucks. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, Dame to the Bucks? I know y'all know who's on the Bucks. Whose team the Bucks is. Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm like, Dame, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez. Come on now. Come on now. If I'm Giannis, I'm like, thank you. I've been telling y'all I'm trying to win. General manager, I'm trying to win. What are you going to do to help me win? And they went out there and they got Dame, of all people. That duo is going to be interesting. Now, I will say, and this is where people, like, they became favorites to win the NBA championship. And although I think that they have the team to do it, what I've seen historically is that when big trades like this happen, it usually takes them a year, right, to get used to each other. I don't want to say it's rare because I don't know enough about the history of like big trades like this and like what happens that year. But from what I've seen, it usually takes them a year to kind of get their footing, figure out how to play together. I do think, though, that if there was a team, a makeup of a team that has success right away, and when I say success, I'm meaning Eastern Conference Finals, going on to the NBA Finals, it would be this team. And the reason why is because of these guys' personalities. Giannis is all about winning. He doesn't care who gets the kudos. He don't care about none of that. That dude just wants to win. Dame is very similar. You know, he got his little Dame time thing and things like that, but he's really a selfless player. He just steps up to the plate. And then you got Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez. Like, these guys, their personalities, I think, will mesh. I don't think that there's going to be any type of ego issues that you may see on other teams. It's just dudes that don't want to cheat the grind, that want to work hard, and that want to win. And so Dame, this is probably the best situation that he's going to be in since he got into the league, right? So I'm super happy for him. I'm really excited to kind of see them play. Like, these are one of those trades where I'm a Giannis fan, not necessarily a Bucks fan, but this trade makes me want to tune in to the Bucks games to see what they got going on over there and how this is just kind of going to work out. And needless to say, I mean, they're two very exciting players. You got Dame, you got Giannis. Like, it don't really get much better than that. So I'm super excited. Blockbuster trade. Damian Lillard to the Bucks. And yeah, we gonna see how this season pans out. We finally in October, so the season's coming real soon. And I'm sure we'll have more news kind of as time goes along. So thanks for that episode. We are done. We done. Made it this far. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so excited to be back, though. Like, I was a little nervous at first, but like, I'm excited to be back. Talking about the things that I already be talking about anyway. So it's like, shit, just press record.